Hi guys, and welcome to my review of I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025, a new reboot, requel, legacy sequel, whatever term you like to apply to the original 1997 slasher I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, just basically just for this review, I'll be giving a brief overview on what my thoughts of the movie are, and then I'll be basically be elaborated with spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie yet and you want to avoid any spoilers, then I'll just give you kind of like a fair warning. When I'm about to get into spoilers, so you can turn this video off and come back to it when you have. And I'm basically just structuring it that way just because I kind of feel like it's difficult to get into too much of my thoughts of this movie without avoiding spoilers. Um, so, and Yeah, I mean, it's been out in theatres over here in the UK for like a week now, and I'm not too sure. I mean, if you haven't seen it already and you want to see it in theatres, you probably better be quick because I'm not confident in how long this is going to stay in theatres. It's kind of like being taken off now a week after it opened over here, where I am. That probably tells you how it's kind of been performing in various areas. To get into it, overall, there were factors of this movie. So to start off with some of the positives that I liked how this movie utilized the whodunit aspect of this notion better than the originals did. I think it doesn't kind of go so much down the route of these of this group of friends killed or supposedly killed an innocent person. They tried to cover it up, and now 1 year later that person is back from the dead to kind of wreak revenge. That's kind of this kind of like washes away that kind of possibility for the most part, and it does go very much down a whodunit kind of route, which I can admire. As somebody who doesn't mind the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, it's never been kind of like one of my top tier horror films. I could compose a list of my top horror movies, and it wouldn't be on there. But as somebody who thinks, it's fine. Admittedly, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I kind of maybe need to do a refresher on it. It did. I think this entry did at least utilize that whodunit element, and it was fun to see Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jenna Love Hewitt back in this film. And although I don't really feel like they were particularly utilised particularly well, and I'll get more into that kind of in the spoilers of this section of this review. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I would say that I feel like for the most part, at least, it does, because so this movie kind of starts off with setting the scene where a lot of our group of friends, a lot of our protagonists are these kind of like spoiled rich kids. And I always feel like whenever you kind of make those your main characters, you're always giving yourself work to do, because when they're these spoiled rich kids, and you kind of living in luxurious like apartments and stuff. You kind of having you're kind of pulling yourself at odds with the audience. You're just giving you something else to that the audience kind of has to get past in order to kind of identify with these characters. And I feel like for all that, it does for the most part do a pretty good job of doing that. I feel like if considering you've got like these protagonists who are largely these rich kids, you could have come up with characters that are a lot more insufferable and a lot more obnoxious than this lot. So I thought the cast here did a pretty good job. And I would say I feel like this again could be kind of mixed, but this is definitely at least a bit more gorier. The kills are a bit more varied than the original film, which I appreciate, or at least from what I remember about it. This might be the most goriest of the entire franchise. I'm not too sure because I haven't seen the sequel. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer in a long time as well. I remember being a bit gorier than the original. But yeah, that's kind of it. So getting into kind of the negatives of this movie is that I just feel like a lot of swings that they go for, a lot of the things that they try in this movie just did not work. They were just kind of nonsensical for me. To kind of like elaborate on that, we'll kind of move into the spoiler half of this review now. So if you haven't seen this, so if you haven't seen this movie yet and you're planning on and you want to avoid spoilers, then this is the time to turn this video off and come back. Basically, spoilers. So we basically we have Sarah Michelle Gellar's character from the original appearing quite a lot in this movie, and the way they kind of do that, where they have one of these new protagonists, one of these new group of friends, and she's got a kind of she hasn't got a connection to Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, but she kind of feels like she does, and as a result, there's these dream sequences. She has this dream sequence where it originally kind of I think it tries to bait you into kind of thinking that Sarah Michelle Gellar's character somehow survived the first film, and that she is actually one of the killers in this film. And then it basically she's given the speech, and then her face descends into this corpse like, and then obviously we reveal that it's this dream, but this about one of our groups of friends that we're following in this movie is having by this. And it's sort of like there's no real reason, apart from obviously this character being kind of a 2025 version, I guess, of that character in the 97 original. There's no real kind of reason why she would be so engrossed in his character from 97 when there's no kind of connection. It would, if you are going to kind of have a dreamlike sequence about that, it would just made much more sense if it was basically Freddie Prinze Jr. or of Hewitt's character having these dreams, seeing as she was actually one of their friends, and it so there's a whole lot of stuff like that, and it's yeah. But I mean, the actual scene with Sarah Michelle Gellar is kind of cool. The de-aging CGI stuff that they do with her is pretty effective. When her face descends into his corpse, it's not the best CGI effect in the world, but I liked it. You know, it's fine. So it's fine for what it is. And yeah, but this so the a lot of kind of so to get into how Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jenna Love Hewitt's characters, Julie and Ray, are utilised in this. Although, like I said, it was fun to see him again. Yeah, I did not like the way that it was executed or the way they were utilised in this film at all, because we basically pick these characters up where they are, where they had been married, they've been divorced, they've been estranged ever since. We know that their marriage did not end well, and they've never really been on good terms ever since. To the point that they're really quite bitter of each other. And you know that, but that's about it. And you don't really get any real context into why. And it's not, you know, you need to be spoon-fed anything or anything like that, but it's just the fact that if you're coming into this as somebody who's kind of versed with the original, and you're seeing these characters like come back, and you're kind of like want that to be a hook for people to come and watch this movie, which I'm assuming you are, because why else would you be making this a legacy sequel? It kind of, it doesn't quite, yeah, there's no real context to why they have such a beef with each other now. And it so that I didn't really care for. And then as we race towards the finale, like I said, this movie does at least utilize a whodunit element better than the previous films. But again, it doesn't really execute it particularly well, because I think all the sort of the red herrings that they throw into this movie are just not effective. There's no, whenever they put a red herring out, there's not really one time where they fully had me convinced that this was maybe going to be the killer. And yeah, so we basically get to the end. We find out that we find out that basically one of the killers is one of the group of friends that we've been following, called Stevie. And already it's not so out of left field, because it kind of makes sense, and it's almost kind of premeditated as well, because basically earlier in the film you have this group of friends, and then they're basically looking across to this Stevie character and going, oh, there's our outside friend, maybe we should, or she's kind of like had a dark past, and maybe we kind of feel bad for her, maybe we kind of like want to invite her over into this thing. And this is kind of how she kind of gets into this group, and then they go off to look at the fireworks, and then this is where they end up having the accident, where because one of the friends is dicking about in the road, and then a driver comes along, swerves to miss him, and goes basically over the edge. And then when they're basically kind of like forming this pact or forming this idea, it kind of, yeah, she's basically the one of like, I've been through all this shit and I was just getting my life back together and now this is going to throw it all back up in the air. And yeah, already you kind of go, you're you're kind of preempting it. And also it kind of cements her being the killer because it already you've already kind of disposed of every other possible person. So it's kind of like, yeah, but then it tries to do this twist, which somehow I had already kind of had a suspicion that they were going to go forward with this movie, which is that but there's not just one killer, there's two killers. And that ends up basically being what they do. And the way they end up doing that and the way they end up paying this off is, for me, the biggest criticism I have of this movie, to the point where I would argue it's quite offensive. So they basically, because they basically, Ray's character comes to save the day and dispose of Stevie, who's been revealed as a killer, and then basically then the survivor, it basically rings Julie. I don't know why she rings Julie to kind of tell her this and not the police or any service or anybody like that. Just ring this woman who has no ties to you whatsoever, and she's like, "Hey girl," like they've been lifelong friends and they just only met each other like an hour ago or whatever. But it makes kind of no sense really that this final act is so littered with things where they just go where you have that sort of plot armor aspect of it, where things just kind of like happen and they're really illogical and they just kind of happen because the movie kind of demands that they happen. And that happens so much in this final act. So basically she leaves this voicemail for Julie telling her that Stevie was a killer, and then she's basically like, the only thing that doesn't make sense is how Stevie was able to do all this all by herself. And then all of a sudden this just causes Julie, for whatever reason, to have this light bulb moment, and she kind of quickly concludes that Ray is the other killer. And it kind of, the logic that they go through, again, they have kind of like preempted because they've given Ray and Steve's characters a close relationship throughout the film. So they do some sort of attempt to kind of make it make sense. But yeah, it's such a wild swing it just doesn't really pay off, because somewhere along the line I can kind of see what they were going for. Maybe they were kind of going for, maybe they had already set this idea. The only real insight you get into why Julie and Ray are so estranged now is because she had kind of moved on past the events and the trauma of the first two movies, and Ray hadn't. And so there's this sort of like post-trauma kind of thing going on, and it just sort of goes. But again, it just doesn't really, the way that it's executed is so clumsy, and so, because there's just no point where you kind of buy it. There's no real way where you go, well, I could go, yeah, this could kind of like happen. It just doesn't feel feel strong about it. And so Julie rushes off to kind of like save the day, and she distracts she distracts Ray, so that the other survivor member can kill him. And again, this is the other thing where what I was saying about plot armor and everything, because preceding all of this, you kind of go, okay, so if Ray and Steve were the two killers, then, and you had, prior to Julie coming, you had these two survivors as well. Why wouldn't you just kill them when you had the chance? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you go through all this elaborate thing of kind of trying to paint Ray as a hero, and he pretends to kill Stevie, and why would you go through all this sort of like, why wouldn't you just kill them both? Apart from obviously the movie kind of demands it. And then it's sort of like, so then we kind of move into this sort of final scene between the two survivors, and obviously they've been through all this trauma, they've been through they find out that obviously one of their friends has been revealed as a killer. She was trying to kill him, and they've had this second killer, and they've undergone all of this trauma, and they just seem to be so unfazed by it, and they're like, and they're just kind of like, oh my god, I haven't eaten in like forever, and they're going to the beach, and they're basically like, oh, we're so like the best of friends, I think you're like my soulmate. And it just sort of feels like they're starting to sound like South Park caricatures. I'm watching this and I'm like, who the fuck wrote this scene? Like, who the hell talks like this? Like, and I'm basically just like, there's no kind of like, and even there's this loose end, there's this sequel bait where, like I said, Ray had just pretended to kill Stevie, so Stevie is still out there somewhere, and they're like, Stevie, the other killer, she's like still alive, and they're like, really? That's crazy. Like, and it's just like, you're not worried that this person who has been trying to kill you is still kind of out there. And it's sort of like, but then they go into the most, what I would say is the most offensive part of all of this, because then like one character goes, you know what's crazy is that all of this could be avoided if men just went to therapy. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what sort of statement are you trying to make? Like, if you are kind of trying, like, if you should make a sort of like throwaway comment, and that's kind of like sounds just kind of like callous and flippant on itself, but whatever. It's just like, even within the realms of this movie, it doesn't make any sense why you would say something like that when you've literally just outed one of your female characters as a killer as well, and arguably the killer who was kind of like the brains of it. It's kind of a pioneer of this plan. So it just doesn't make any real sense why you would just kind of like skim over that and just sort of go, well, yeah, Ray was a killer, so men's mental health. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it just sort of like, if you were kind of trying to make some sort of comment on men's mental health or PTSD or whatever, you fell flat on this, because this was so badly handled, if that was kind of like what you were going for. And this movie is just full of that. This movie is just full of bold ideas that are just executed so poorly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That pretty much wraps up this review. So yeah, okay, guys. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. And yeah, if you like this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring a bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment in the comment section about if you have you seen the film, what did you think of it. Where I've heard some people kind of be really divisive on the end. Some people really love the twists of the ending. Some people are like me as well, who kind of just thinks it kind of pisses on the original. So yeah, let me know all that stuff, which side of the fence you fall on, all your thoughts about the movie. Have you seen the original? Do you think it holds up against the original? All that fun stuff. Yeah, until next time, I will see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.